All right, what's up, guys? So we're back. Sorry, my voice is giving out. Every time I start this podcast on the opening words I say, my voice always gives out in the beginning. So that's what's always tricky about it. I guess it happens when you're just starting out, but that's what happens. So tonight, as you can see, there's not too much to discuss tonight. Really, what we're going to get into is if a lot of you guys already watched the Oscars live with me, so that was great. Really, what we're going to get into tonight is just kind of recapping the Oscars, going through the winners, kind of talking about what I agree with, what I disagree with. I disagree with a lot of the picks, so you guys are going to see that. But I don't hate a lot of the picks. I only really hate like one or two of them. So we're going to get into that real quick. But before we do that, yeah, let me just say that the ceremony overall was just, I thought it was really good. I thought overall they did a nice job. I mean, there was definitely some politics, intermixed into it, kind of like there always is. But they did a better job of kind of making it more about the movies. And that was something that I personally wanted to see. I mean, there's always that little bit of politics, a little bit of, social issues, which is a good thing. Bring awareness to people, talk about important social issues, about diversity and inclusion. All those things are great. But I thought they did a really good job getting into that kind of stuff, but also kind of leaving it to talk about the movies and acknowledge the creators and go into those kind of things as well. More stuff that people who are invested in these films kind of want to see. But overall, I mean, I thought it was a good show. I mean, you guys, if you watched the live stream with me, that video had like a ton of dislikes because everyone was coming on expecting for like me to show you a live stream of the Oscars. So maybe I didn't title it quite correctly, so I'll know that better next year. But I will next. That was definitely a learning process, but it was so much fun. I streamed for like 4 hours live. I didn't actually put it on the channel because I didn't feel like necessarily anyone else would necessarily want to watch it back, besides the people who already watched it live with me. So generally speaking, yeah, I decided not to put it on the channel. But next year, if you want to tune in, I'll put it on the channel for you guys if you let me know that you actually would want to watch it and those kind of things. But generally speaking, yeah, I didn't put it on the channel just for those reasons. I just felt like, honestly, like no one would want to go back and watch a 4-hour live stream of us hanging out during the Oscars, and especially considering I didn't have the comments scrolling on screen, because there was some pretty crazy stuff said in the chat during, because we had a lot of people come in who, like I said, were just looking for a stream and didn't find one, so they just insulted me and called me names and stuff. So that was fun. That was it was definitely an experience. I handled it. I think I handled it pretty well. But you guys are so much fun to hang out with. It was a long stream, but it was so much fun. It was so much fun. So the one thing you guys notice if you watch with me, I like had to take a 5-minute break because I was like starving. I was streaming for like 3 hours straight, and I was like, I really did not think this through. I should have eaten beforehand, but I did have my test, my trusty jug of water, which is like a gallon jug of water. I did have that, so that definitely helped. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to show you my display capture. Don't forget when you see that. That's what you're seeing. So now you're seeing my screen here. So let me just double check to make sure that you're actually seeing the correct thing here. Give me one sec. Okay, yeah, we're good. Okay, so I'm going to go through here. And here's the list of all the winners for the Oscars that happened on Sunday night. So if you missed the Oscars, I'm going to give you a brief rundown here. So as you can see here, the biggest award of the night that most people probably care about is Shape of Water. Shape of Water ended up taking Best Picture. I predicted Dunkirk, but I knew deep down that really deep down it was between Shape of Water and Three Billboards. As you can see that those were the two front runners. Those were the two that had by far the best chance to win. I had a gut feeling, I had a gut instinct with Dunkirk. It didn't work out, but honestly, I kind of figured the best shot to win was probably Three Billboards, but Shape of Water had the second best shot, so it's not surprising, especially considering Shape of Water had so many nominations. What was it, like 13 or 14 nominations? Had the most by far. So not surprising they ended up taking Best Picture, but I'll get into that a little bit more later because there's definitely some stuff I want to say about that. Directing. So Guillermo del Toro. Guillermo del Toro was unsurprisingly the director of the night. I predicted he would win. Pretty much everyone I think predicted he would win. It's not a shocker in any way because honestly I felt, like I said, the Academy loves Shape of Water. A lot of people love Shape of Water. It's very creative. It's very visually appealing. It's just a really unique story that could not be directed by anyone. It's definitely got to have a very specific vision and a very specific type of directing to pull it off well. For me, he didn't pull it off well, but for a lot of people he did, which we'll get into. Original screenplay. So Get Out, Jordan Peele, not surprising to me. I predicted that one as well. I believe he won the Critics' Choice Award and another award. So Get Out had like kind of sweep this category. And like I said, they try to diversify their winners. So a number of different winners from a number of different films that the Academy loves. That's kind of how they generally approach things. Because that's kind of how they divvy this up. And Jordan Peele was not surprising that he got Best Original Screenplay. Like I said, this would not be my pick. I would not have picked Get Out. Get Out would probably be my fourth pick on this list, honestly. I think I would probably have gone with maybe The Big Sick. I would have gone with either The Big Sick or Lady Bird, one of those two. And then I'd probably go, in order, I'd probably go Big Sick, Lady Bird, Three Billboards, Get Out, and then Shape of Water. Those would probably be my choice. But you guys know my feeling on Shape of Water, which I'll get into. But honestly, I'm super stoked for Jordan Peele. I'm so stoked for Jordan Peele that he ended up winning this because he seems like such a great dude. Like, he seems like such a chilled guy. That'd be cool to hang out with, very down to earth, very chill. Like, he seems like a very cool dude. And obviously, he wrote a great script that resonated with a lot of people. I loved it purely as a thriller film. I tried to sort of block out the more social aspect stuff. I get that it's there, but I really just try to enjoy it as a film. Maybe that's what people are seeing in it that I'm not. But generally, as a screenplay, I thought it was pretty good. But it wouldn't have been my pick. But I have really no problem with it. It's not one that I'm really upset about by any means. So original score, Shape of Water. I predicted Shape of Water as well. Like I said, it was the Academy's dream right there. The Academy loved Shape of Water this year. That was their baby this year. They loved Shape of Water. That was their film. They nominated for the most nominations out of any film of the year, and they loved it. And the score is not bad for Shape of Water. I thought it was, not too bad. It wouldn't be my pick, obviously. I would have gone with either Dunkirk or Phantom Thread. That's a really tough decision for me. If I had to choose between those five, Dunkirk and Phantom Thread are the clear two favorites to me. Star Wars probably be third, Three Billboards fourth, Shape of Water last. You guys know I hate Shape of Water, but we'll get into that more. If I had to pick this, I'd probably pick Phantom Thread, but Dunkirk would be very close. It's very tough. I could go back and forth on that one, honestly. Probably go Phantom Thread, though. I really like Phantom Thread's score. Animated feature film, not surprisingly, Coco. This was the easy winner. I have not seen The Breadwinner. I have not seen Loving Vincent either, but I'm pretty confident that Coco is probably better than those two. I can't say for certain because I have not seen them and I don't want to say 100%. But generally speaking, Coco was the clear favorite. No one expected anyone else but Coco to win. So Coco won, not surprisingly. Everyone predicted it was going to happen, not surprisingly. Here's one though. Coco won for Best Original Song for Remember Me. And I thought that was probably there were clearly two favorites here. If you watch the show, there were two performances, and they were these two songs. They were Remember Me, and they were This Is Me by The Greatest Showman. I have not seen The Greatest Showman, but I know there was a lot of hype surrounding This Is Me, and I definitely want to see it. I'm probably going to see it sometime whenever it comes out on Blu-ray. I'm going to watch it then. I've heard the critics, Rotten Tomatoes, don't really love it, but the fans do, which is kind of interesting. So I'm pretty sure I'll probably enjoy it, but we'll see. But I thought Remember Me was a two-horse race between This Is Me and Remember Me, and I wasn't exactly sure which would win. I didn't predict this category, but if I had, I would have predicted This Is Me. I think this was one of the upsets of the night. There's not generally many upsets at the Oscars, and there weren't really this year. But generally, yeah, This Is Me was probably the favorite, and Remember Me was probably second, and Remember Me ended up taking it. I have no problem with either of those two winning. I mentioned during the ceremony when I was streaming, Remember Me, sorry, I'm checking back and forth, check between comments, that's why I'm going back and forth. Remember Me was a song that was very exceptionally written. I think I've pretty much cried or near cried almost every time I've watched that final scene between Coco and Miguel when he sings Remember Me. That is such an impactful scene and such a beautiful song. I have no problem with it winning. This Is Me is an amazing song as well. So no problem with that winner. I would have been good with either one of those two. Call Me By Your Name, Mystery of Love they performed that as well. So that actually stood a chance too. I forgot they performed that, but they did perform Mystery of Love as well. It's a great song also. So cinematography. My pick would be Blade Runner. You guys remember from the WillFoxification Movie Awards, I predicted Blade Runner. Well, actually, I predicted Blade Runner would win the Oscar in my live stream, and I actually picked Blade Runner myself. I thought Roger Deakins was overdue. I thought Blade Runner was a beautifully shot film. Although I didn't love Blade Runner as a total package, I can't deny that visually it is pretty awesome, and it's beautifully shot. It's beautifully shot. It has great special effects, visual effects. And, it's just probably the best shot film of the year. But Dunkirk would be number 2 for me. I did see Mudbound. I never actually reviewed it. I thought Mudbound was very nicely shot as well. And it was shot by a female cinematographer, so I'm sure that probably played in as well just for inclusive purposes. But it is a beautifully shot film, so you can't deny that. Shape of Water was also a greatly shot film. Darkest Hour was all right. I wouldn't necessarily consider that best cinematography and nominee, but it was in there nonetheless. I'd say this was a 2-horse race between Blade Runner and Dunkirk. Shape of Water definitely had a shot too, I guess, so maybe 3-horse, but didn't have a shot for me. I have no problem with Blade Runner and Roger Deakins winning. That would be my choice to begin with. So visual effects, this is where I do have a slight issue. I don't mind Blade Runner necessarily winning this award because Blade Runner's visual effects were very good. It's a very, like I said, very visually appealing film, just kind of like the original. But with that said, although I didn't love War for the Planet of the Apes either that much, I gave it an 8. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I think War for the Planet of the Apes. I enjoyed War for the Planet of the Apes. I don't think it's an amazing film like a lot of others do, but I enjoyed it. I enjoy all the Planet of the Apes films. I don't love any of them necessarily, but I always enjoy them. I don't dislike them. But it is undeniable the greatness of the visual effects in those films, especially this one. And the motion capture work that Andy Serkis and the other characters do, and how it looks and feels real, and garners so much emotion from me from visual effects and CGI, that's something that cannot be ignored. And it's similar to how Jungle Book 1, it was last year, correct? Jungle Book 1, War for the Planet of the Apes is probably similar. I think that, honestly, Jungle Book is probably a better looking film overall, just my opinion, and a better film overall. But I really am shocked that War for the Planet of the Apes lost this one. I predicted it would win. That was one of the 3 that I got wrong. I was 10 for 13 on the night. And I really should have been 12 for 13 if I had just picked with what I knew was going to win, instead of picking with my heart, which I will learn from. But generally, this is one of the upsets of the night. War for the Planet of the Apes was definitely the favorite to me, with Blade Runner coming in second probably. But Blade Runner pulling it off definitely surprised me a little bit. I thought War for the Planet of the Apes would finally get the recognition that the franchise deserves in terms of its visual offerings. And that's kind of how I view it. I think War for the Planet of the Apes was definitely something that definitely a shocker for me, and I'm definitely not on board with that one necessarily. Like I said, I don't hate it because Blade Runner 2049 had really good visual effects. But I thought War for the Planet of the Apes was just another level, and that's why I think it should have won. I think a lot of people feel it should have won. So production design, not surprisingly, Shape of Water. Like I said, there's a lot of great production elements in Shape of Water in terms of its visual offerings. What it offers simply as a visual storytelling, so to speak, the production of the film itself. There's a lot of different things that go into that award, but generally, not surprising, Shape of Water won. I probably would have picked... I don't know. That's tough to say. Probably Blade Runner. I think Blade Runner's production design was pretty good. I think I probably would have picked Blade Runner. And it's funny because it all comes into visual aspects. Visual storytelling, Blade Runner, I feel like does a good job. But in its storytelling itself, I feel like it's a little clunky and I don't quite find emotion in it. That's why I didn't love it. But visually, I can't deny that it's great. So actor in a leading role. Gary Oldman, I predicted Gary Oldman would win. I felt very confident in this choice just because he's been around for such a long time. He captivated everyone with this performance. I didn't love Darkest Hour as a film. I think it's all right. I think it's okay. I wouldn't necessarily rush out to watch it again. I wouldn't necessarily call it a great film by any means, but I do think that Gary Oldman gave a great performance in Darkest Hour, so I can't deny that he deserves this award. He would not be my pick. He would be my third pick in this category. I would have gone with Timothée Chalamet, and Daniel Day-Lewis second, and Gary Oldman third. Then probably Daniel Kaluuya, and then probably Denzel. But I can't deny Gary Oldman was overdue, and there are a lot of factors that go into awarding these Oscars. It's not just the best performance of the year. It's really more than that. It's definitely more than that. Timothée Chalamet is very young. He has a long career ahead of him. Maybe many Oscar nominations coming his way, and probably a win or two at least coming his way. He's so young. He's still a teenager, isn't he? Around there, maybe he's 20 at the most, but he's so young. Got a long career ahead of him. Daniel Day-Lewis, even though this is potentially his last film, he's won 3 Oscars. His history, his legacy is cemented. He is maybe the greatest actor of all time, if not one of them at the very least. So the Academy is probably like, well, you've kind of had your due. You've had 3 Oscars. You're already a great, just kind of let Gary Oldman have this one. And Gary Oldman's performance, I'm not saying that it wasn't considered the best by a lot of people, but I think there's a lot more that goes into this decision than just the performance itself, than just judging the performance. If it was just judging the performance, it probably would have gone to one of these two, right? But I don't think that's the only factor that played in here. So Gary Oldman won because he gave a great performance, but also because he's a little bit older. He's been around for a while. He's always said and done the right things. He's always been acknowledged as a great actor, and it was just his time. That's why he won this award. And in conjunction with him giving a great performance, obviously. Actor in a supporting role. So as you can see, Sam Rockwell won this award. This is another one I predicted incorrectly. I predicted Willem Dafoe. I think Willem Dafoe was probably second on this list, second favorite, but Sam Rockwell was the clear favorite here, and that is indisputable. Indisputable because he had won all the awards building up to this. He had won all the Best Supporting Actor nominee awards, just because first-time nominee, been around for a long time, similar to Gary Oldman, not as old as Gary Oldman, obviously, but the Academy loves first-time nominees and first-time winners. And even though Willem Dafoe hasn't won before, he has been nominated before. My logic behind picking Willem Dafoe was the same logic I had in picking Gary Oldman. He's been around for a while. He gave a great performance. He's done and said all the right things. He's likable. The Academy enjoys his work. And I felt like it was his time, and Sam Rockwell still had time to get into it. But they also play in the fact that Sam Rockwell is, I don't know if he's considered an elite actor, and this might be his only chance of winning the Oscars. So that first-time nominee, they liked his performance. Like I said, there's many factors that go into these kind of things. Like I said, this is all speculation. I don't necessarily have insight. I don't have an inside source. I don't have someone telling me this is what's happening. This is what I believe. This is my opinion. This is how I believe these awards are decided. It's more than just the performance. I think it's important that people at least try and recognize that, because if it were just the performance, I think Willem Dafoe probably would have taken it. Christopher Plummer probably would have taken it, honestly. I mean, there's other performances here that I think were better than Sam Rockwell's, but there's other factors that go into this. And I'm sure the people that disagree with me out there, I wouldn't even have nominated Sam Rockwell probably. I would have given this award to Armie Hammer, who's not even on this list here. So, like I said, there are a lot of things that go into this. A lot of people disagree with me on that. Or if at the very least, I probably would have cut Woody Harrelson out of this and maybe put Sam Rockwell in his spot and then put Armie Hammer in here and then given the award to Armie Hammer. That's what I would have done. And I'm pretty shocked that Armie Hammer got left off the list. Like I said, this is probably one of the biggest snubs I've ever seen, that Armie Hammer got snubbed here. That was pretty shocking to me. Shocking that they put 2 people from 3 Billboards in and not 1 from Call Me By Your Name. So that's definitely pretty shocking for me. But regardless, Sam Rockwell, I don't hate it. He wouldn't be my pick, but I understand why they did it. And I really knew that he would probably win this award, but I picked Willem Dafoe because I hoped he would win. But Sam Rockwell, not surprising he won. All the signs pointed to him winning. So actress in a leading role. So Frances McDormand, I predicted this one. This is another one of the 10 that I predicted correctly. Not surprising at all. She swept the award show. She won this award at pretty much every award show, I believe. All the signs pointed to her winning it. Not surprising she won it. I think she won for Fargo, correct? I mean, she's won before, but so she's not a first-time winner. But I felt like the Academy just fell in love with this performance. I fell in love with this performance. She honestly would have been my number 2 here. I would have given the award to Margot Robbie, especially as a first-time nominee, and a performance that just wowed me a little bit more in I, Tonya than what Frances McDormand did. Even though Frances McDormand was excellent, I said in my review of 3 Billboards that she carries that film. She absolutely carries that film, and she does a ton to make it what it is. And I liked it a lot. People liked it a little bit more than I did. But generally, Frances McDormand is well-deserving of the award. I have no problem with that. I would have picked Margot Robbie, but Frances McDormand would have been second for me, so really no problem there. No complaints. So actress in a supporting role. Allison Janney, I, Tonya, this is the least. Like I said, I felt most confident in predicting this category than I did any other category. She was the hands-down favorite in this category. Laurie Metcalf, people thought she had an outside chance. That was totally possible. She was my second favorite. Leslie Manville was an outside favorite. Mary J. Blige, I don't think really stood a chance. Octavia Spencer probably didn't stand a chance either. Leslie Manville, honestly, probably didn't either. It was really Allison Janney or Laurie Metcalf. And Allison Janney was the clear favorite. There was really no other choice here. I think everyone I've talked to agrees with this pick. I agree with this pick. She would be my pick. I predicted it. She was well-deserving of this award. And I have no problem with it. So, documentary feature, Icarus took the award. I have not seen Icarus. I have not seen any of these films. I do not watch many documentaries, but I may go out and watch some of them now. If you guys feel, I think some of you in the chat during the live stream actually said that you think I should watch some of these documentaries. I'm totally open to them. I do not watch a lot of documentaries, but I will go ahead and check out Icarus, maybe a couple others if you guys recommend them for me. Foreign language film, Fantastic Woman. That was, I think, a woman about a film about a transgender woman. I have not seen it. I have not seen any of the others as well. I do not watch a lot of foreign language films. Only the ones that you guys requested me that I go out and watch, and a lot of them are great. So I really should be more open to watching foreign language films, but I don't really get a ton of them because as an American, they don't really show up much. They're not really getting wide releases. I don't really ever see them in the theater, so they're kind of difficult to find unless you kind of go out of your way to find them. But I'm sure Fantastic Woman is great. I just have not seen it. Adapted screenplay. So Call Me By Your Name. This was an easy pick for me as well. I predicted this. This would be my pick for this category as well. It's my favorite film on this list out of these 5. Not really a difficult pick here. It's really just the best film. That's really, what it comes down to. The Academy viewed Call Me By Your Name as the best film. It's the best screenplay. It's the best adapted screenplay based, best film based on an adapted screenplay. That's really what it came down to. Disaster Artist would probably be second here. I would probably go Call Me By Your Name, Disaster Artist, Logan, Molly's Game, and then Mudbound. That'd probably be my choice. So literally the order that it's in, that would be my choice. And I'm fine with Call Me By Your Name. That would be my choice as well. Costume design, I'm good with this one. Someone mentioned in the chat during the live stream that Beauty and the Beast should have won. I really wouldn't have had a problem with that. I didn't love Beauty and the Beast as a film. I think it's very average. It's very fine as a film. But overall, I think the costume design, it was pretty good. But I would give this award to Phantom Thread. Phantom Thread, the dresses, just the design of the costumes, what the characters wore, how it immerses you in the environments and the setting. I really love that. And the fact that a lot of the film is based on costumes or, dresses and fashion to begin with, it kind of was a no-brainer to kind of pick Phantom Thread here, so not surprising. Film editing, Dunkirk. Dunkirk kind of sweeped a lot of these technical categories, as you'll see when we get down here. I thought maybe Baby Driver stood a chance of winning this category because Baby Driver is a very nicely edited film, very fast-paced, very quick, a lot of cuts. But it is a really cool edited film considering the music mixed in with sound editing and stuff, which it was nominated for but did not win. But Dunkirk is a very excellently edited film. I mean, Dunkirk, technically speaking, is remarkable. It really is. I mean, all the different type of shots up in the air, up on the ground, the editing of the film with the sound, a lot of the mixing. It's just a great film. And editing-wise, Dunkirk, not surprising, it won here. That's tough. Dunkirk or Baby Driver. I don't know. I think I probably would have given it to Dunkirk too, but Baby Driver would have been second. It's a very close second. I didn't love Baby Driver that much as a film. I mean, I gave it an 8. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it as much as everyone else, but I enjoyed it overall. I wouldn't necessarily go rush out and see it again, but I recommend it, and I think a lot of people, I understand why people like it more than I do. So Dunkirk would be my choice here. Baby Driver second. Makeup and hairstyling. Did not see Wonder, did not see Victoria and Abdul, so Darkest Hour. It makes sense considering Gary Oldman is in a lot of prosthetics. That totally makes sense. Not surprising with that one. I have not seen any of these animated shorts, I believe. I did not see Kobe Bryant's Dear Basketball film. I hear it's good, so I'm sure it's good. But I don't know. It's hard to say. Live action short film. I don't know if I've seen any of these either. I think I saw maybe this one in before like a Pixar film or something. I'm not sure, but Silent Child took it. You guys have to update me on that. Sorry if I'm not answering any comments, by the way. I have not read them yet because I'm still looking at the screen. That's why. Okay, so sound editing, Dunkirk, and sound mixing, Dunkirk took both. Not surprising because Dunkirk is, like I said, a technical marvel. It is excellent in every way. The sounds of the planes, the Spitfire fights, the shooting on the ground, the fleeing, the underwater editing of sound, the torpedoes hitting the boats, all the screams. It's very easy to immerse yourself in the world of Dunkirk, in the land of Dunkirk, in this battle, and how it's sort of just chaotic and frantic and those kind of things like a war film typically is. But Dunkirk really immerses you into a setting, and that you know very little about the characters, but feel like you're there with them. And that's kind of why Dunkirk won a lot of these technical awards, because its immersion factor was just so incredibly high that the technical elements really are a big part to play in that, and that's really why Dunkirk took these awards home. Okay, so let me go ahead and do that. Okay, yeah. So we went through there. Now that we got those things there, okay, now I can go ahead and answer a couple of these comments there. So we got that gone through now. So now you saw probably Inception on the screen there. But Cracked Up TV said, "Hey, Will, I know you didn't enjoy Shape of Water, but personally I found it to be a very good film and definitely one of Dell's best." Dude, I'm totally in the minority with that opinion. I mean, the film is beloved by a lot of different people. However, I will say that I have gone online and read some people on Reddit and other places who felt similar to the way I did. And there have been a lot of people who commented and said, yeah, I felt the same way. I think there's a lot of people that are afraid to speak out negatively against this film because it's so beloved and the Academy loved it. And a lot of people feel so passionately about it. But for me, dude, I tweeted about this. I tweeted about this today, actually, and before. I'm gonna have to look back on it. I think, in my opinion, I think Shape of Water might have been the worst film I watched last year. That's just my opinion, right? And that's pretty shocking because it won Best Picture and everyone loves it, right? But I was like really just not into it. I just could not get into it. I felt the romance was forced. There was no build up to it. I felt like everything was a little pretentious in a way that it was like I couldn't get into the romance itself, which is a big part of the story. I like Sally Hawkins in it a lot. I feel like she carries a lot of the film. I didn't like many of the other characters. I didn't feel connected to them. I felt like it was just a little too weird for me, and I've watched a lot of weird films. I've watched a lot of weird stuff. I mean, you guys have requested weird stuff that I've loved. I've watched weird films on my own that I've loved, but Shape of Water just could not do it for me, man. I just could not get into it. I'm not sure what. I'm gonna have to rewatch it. I think I'm gonna rewatch it sometime soon. I think it comes out on Blu-ray soon. I think maybe I'll rent it on Redbox or something. I'm gonna rewatch it and give it another shot. Maybe I'll feel differently and come back on here and say I was totally wrong and I'm making an ass of myself. But I don't know, man. I couldn't get into it. I really hated it. I really just did not like it at all. And I think it's one of my more disliked reviews, which shows that people obviously disagree with me. But the romance was such a big part of it. Didn't feel it. Felt like it was very forced. It comes out of left field. I get that they're kind of like, they consider themselves like lesser people or like incomplete. That's how they describe it. And I get this kind of like a underdog story in a way, like an underdog romance story. But the fact that there's a lot to it that I think doesn't necessarily fit for me. It doesn't necessarily make sense for me. It's not cohesive for me. and that's really just a big part of it. The romance itself didn't work. I didn't necessarily love the music itself a lot. Like, I predicted that would win original score, but I didn't feel like it was really. It felt a little weird and too odd for me. And Guillermo del Toro always does kind of weird films. Pan's Labyrinth, other films he's done have been weird. This is not surprising. It's his style. But, and I read kind of recently, and I agree, that someone said this film kind of comes across as studio, like a studio influence. Like, there's probably 30 more minutes of this film that was probably cut. And I think that might have helped me. Honestly. I think the problem is the romance feels so abrupt. Like, they go from hardly knowing each other to in love with each other, and it doesn't make sense to me. It didn't feel like it really worked. It didn't feel natural to me. And I think I maybe could have accepted the romance between a monster and a woman if it had felt a little more natural, a little more cohesive, but it didn't feel like it really built it up in a way that made sense and really feel like it fit. It felt like the movie wanted the characters to be together more than the characters themselves wanted to be together. And it didn't make sense for me. And that really destroys the whole premise and the whole outline of the film, the whole direction of the film. And that's why I didn't really get into it. Or at least the reason. And there's just some other stuff too, like with how they come in and out of there so quickly. There's no cameras in there following them. There's other stuff I read on Reddit too. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of a good point. I didn't realize that. But there's just stuff in general that I just there was no emotion for me. I found myself more laughing at it than feeling sad and invested in it. I felt I was like, this is kind of silly, and that's kind of how I viewed it. Maybe call me cynical, I guess, but that's just my take on it, honestly. Like I said, I have no problem with everyone disagreeing with me on it. I'm obviously in the extreme minority. Everyone loves this film, or the vast majority of people love this film, and I'm okay with that. I just hated it. I did not like it at all. A lot of people were upset that I put it at number one. A lot of people don't like it as much as I do. Film is subjective. We all have different opinions, and I love that you guys are able to share yours so openly, and I'm able to share mine openly, and you guys, respectful about it. So, like I said, I just didn't like it. I didn't like it, but I have no problem with the people who did. He said, cracked up, said, I don't think the film was amazing, but overall I think it was very good. That's totally fine, dude. It totally makes sense. I think a lot of people agree with you. A lot of people don't agree with me, and that's fine. But I'm not afraid to go out on a ledge and be honest here, because otherwise, I'm just kind of, spinning my wheels and not necessarily being honest and being frank about what I feel and being truthful. And I feel like if I'm being dishonest, I'm not doing my job correctly. My self-proclaimed job, so to speak. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. So, yeah, that was definitely. But on that topic, I think this is probably the most disconnected I've felt from a Best Picture winner maybe ever. It's funny though, because what was Birdman won back in like 2014 or 15, I think. Birdman was another one. I didn't hate Birdman, but I thought Birdman was pretty overrated. I thought Birdman was all right, but I didn't love Birdman. And it's funny because Revenant, actually, I felt the same way. Revenant didn't win Best Picture, but a lot of people loved Revenant. I can acknowledge that it's great. It's exceptionally shot. Leo was fantastic in it. Tom Hardy's fantastic in it. But the story of Revenant just didn't grab me. I thought it was all right. I didn't hate the movie as much as I hated Shape of Water, but maybe it's I think his name's Alejandro Inarritu. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name correctly, but I don't necessarily love the two films that I've seen from him. He's considered a great all-time director, but his two films have kind of left me a little cold in some spots, and that's just kind of how I feel about him. But Birdman was another one I was pretty disconnected on. A lot of the other Best Picture winners, at least in recent years, I've been like, okay, I get, like, maybe not my exact pick, but I'm like, I love that movie too. I'm fine with it. But Shape of Water is definitely one of the more disconnected experiences I've had based on what the Academy feels. And that's kind of a unique experience for me, because last year Moonlight won. I had no problem with Moonlight winning. I would have picked La La Land. La La Land was the clear favorite to a lot of people, and Moonlight ended up, sweeping in and taking it, which is fine, because Moonlight was a great film, and I love Moonlight. I've watched it several times. I really enjoy it. A lot of people don't, but I love Moonlight. I like La La Land more. I like La La Land more though, but I was fine with Moonlight. I can go back and look at the recent Best Picture winners. I can go ahead and pull that up. Generally speaking, yeah, I think I'm good with most of them. In recent years, like I said, I really have not, like, I don't always agree, obviously, because we're not always going to agree, but Spotlight I was good with. I probably would have picked Mad Max, but Spotlight was great. I love Spotlight. Birdman was 2014. I didn't love Birdman, like I said. 12 Years a Slave in 2013. Here, I'll bring up my screen back up. So 12 Years a Slave in 2013. Great with that. I love 12 Years a Slave. That would have been my pick, actually. This was really a fantastic year. I mean, these movies, American Hustle I didn't quite love as much as everyone else. Captain Phillips, I love. I actually was kind of left a little cold by Gravity as well. It's weird because these are the movies I'm talking about are from the 3 Spanish directors that are like powerhouses and winning all the Best Director awards, and their films have kind of left me a little cold. So that's kind of a weird trend. I don't know what's going on there, but their films have left me a little cold. 12 Years a Slave would have easily been my pick. 12 Years a Slave was the best film that year, and these are some pretty excellent films here. I saw all of these, and they're all pretty good. Gravity and American Hustle were probably the weakest two to me, but still great. 2012, this has been brought up by my brother and several other people on the live streams here. Sorry, I did check this. The 2012, this is excellent. This year, ooh. Beast of the Southern Wild left me a little cold as well, but I was fine with Argo. My pick would be Zero Dark 30. I like Life of Pi probably a little bit more too, and I like Django a lot. But Argo, I had no problem with Argo winning. The Artist, I'm probably good with The Artist. I would have had no problem with it winning. I don't know if there's anything else I would have picked over it. Yeah, I probably would have picked The Artist too, honestly. King's Speech, I'm good with King's Speech. I would have picked King's Speech. Social Network would be number 2. Toy Story 3, oh man, that's a tough one also. Really good year. I didn't love Inception as much as everyone else, and that's funny because I do really like Nolan films, but Inception is not necessarily one of my favorites, but I'm going to rewatch it again and see how I feel. I might love it again. But King's Speech was great. Hurt Locker was great. District 9 was great. A lot of these films. Slumdog was actually, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen Slumdog. I don't really remember much about it. This is when they only had 5 nominees, so it's crazy. No Country was the pick there. Departed was another good pick. I'm fine with all these. Lord of the Rings, excellent film. But yeah, I mean, honestly, this was probably the most disconnected I felt from a Best Picture winner in a long time, maybe ever. So I'm gonna have to look back at that. Crack TV said I personally found La La Land to just be okay, dude. Yeah, I mean, I honestly understand. Maybe are you a fan of musicals? Because I'm not a fan of musicals, but I really love La La Land, which was kind of crazy because I didn't think I would love La La Land when I originally saw. I think the second trailer for it came across as like a little more like, heavy musical. And I was like, ooh, I don't know. But then I saw it and I was like, dude, I was blown away. Like, you saw my video essay on it. I was blown away by La La Land. It's one of my top 5 favorite movies ever. Like, I love La La Land so much. I'm legitimately considering or starting to wonder whether it's my favorite. Like, it's certainly in the running. It's certainly in the conversation. And like, I felt so connected to those characters, and I love them. But you say you do love musicals. Interesting. Okay, that's interesting. It's not a musical, but did you like Whiplash? Because Whiplash is from Damien Chazelle as well. It's not a musical, but it's about music, I guess. A lot of times people compare Whiplash and La La Land, just sort of an argument like, which one do you like better? I like La La Land better. Whiplash was great too. I like La La Land though, but Whiplash was amazing. I would give Whiplash a 10 out of 10 too. But La La Land is a little bit better to me, just a little bit better. So you recommend Phantom of the Opera? Okay, yeah, I'll have to watch Phantom of the Opera. I think it's been a while since I've watched Phantom of the Opera, if I ever have seen it. I don't know. I can't remember, honestly. It's been a long time since I've watched it. I'm gonna have to check that out. I'm actually in the process of watching Godfather 2, and I'm really enjoying it. I watched the first Godfather maybe a week or two ago. I can't remember. I did a live stream about it. Really enjoyed it. I think I'm actually enjoying the second one more. I think I like the second one a little bit more. I find Al Pacino's performance in this Godfather to be so freaking good, dude. I love Marlon Brando in the first one, but Al Pacino in the second one, dude. I'm pretty enamored right now with his performance. He's pretty excellent in it, and I see why people love him in those films. Yeah, Robert De Niro, I'm kind of like, I'm an hour and a half in, so I'm not quite done yet. Both movies are like 3 hours long. The second one's like 3 hours and 22 minutes long on Netflix. They're both on Netflix, by the way, if you want to watch them. But they're long, really long. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. But you said that's your favorite musical. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. It's probably considered a pretty classic musical. I can check up the reviews on it, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's considered pretty classic. I don't really like musicals. Like I said, musicals aren't really my thing. But La La Land was kind of a different animal for me. Just because, honestly, like, it's a musical, but there's really a lot of drama in it. It's not really like they don't just break out in song and dance most of the time. They do sometime, but they really like fit it in and weave it in a way that really makes sense. That's why I felt like it was maybe a little bit of a different breed than traditional musicals. Because I remember watching Chicago a while back when I was a kid, and it's funny because I was a kid, so it's really hard to say whether I would love it today as an adult. But when I watched it as a kid, I was like, man, this is awful. I hated it because it was like pure musical, right? I think it won Best Picture, didn't it? Pretty sure it did. Yeah, it did in 2002. Yeah, which is crazy. Maybe I'll love it more today. But I watched Chicago as a kid, and I was like, this sucks. I didn't like it at all. It was very musical. I don't love musicals, like I said. But I'm pretty much yeah. I think I'm in the minority of that one. I'm looking up on Rotten Tomatoes. So Cracked Up TV. So there's Phantom of the Opera from 1943, 1925, 1989, and 2005. So you're gonna have to tell me which one you recommend, because there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of different. It's pretty wide varying in terms of reviews. So the 43 one has a 75%, the 25 one has a 91%, the 1989 one has a 38%, and 2005 has a 33%. So that's interesting. That's interesting. I'll show you real quick. Give me one sec. Okay. Right here. So you can see there's 4 different Phantom of the Operas here. Well, there's a bunch, but there's 4 that actually have reviews. So you have to tell me which one that you recommend, because some of these don't have the best reviews. That's interesting. Then it's not necessarily always a great indicator, but you never know. I mean, sometimes the critics are accurate in their descriptions and ratings of the film, but the 1925 one has a really good score. The 43 one has a 75. That's pretty solid as well. So, hard to say. But yeah, just let me know what you think. But yeah, in terms of musicals aren't really my thing. Not really something that I really get into very frequently. But La La Land was an exception. And you don't really see many musicals anymore. Many mainstream musicals, which is kind of interesting. But La La Land kind of, maybe, I guess, in a way, reinvigorated it. But we still didn't really see many this year either. So maybe it's a one-off kind of thing. I don't know. So you said the 2005 one was good, but the voices were bad. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I'll have to check. I'll check out whatever one you recommend. I mean, I'll go and check it out. Whatever one you think, whatever one you like the best. That's the one I'll go check out. Whatever one you wholeheartedly recommend. I trust you. But generally speaking, yeah. So back to the Oscars real quick. So I thought the ceremony went well. I thought the musical performance went well. The one thing I will say, the ceremony is a little overly long. I mean, I remember I thought maybe it would end by 11, so it started at 8, maybe go to 11. It was like damn near midnight. I mean, it was like 11:45 probably, and I was like streaming for 4 hours straight. So I was like, dude, I was exhausted. By the end of it, I was like just falling apart basically. And I was like, I'm gonna go straight to bed after this. But yeah, the ceremony is probably a little bit long. They probably need to cut it down. I mean, 4-hour ceremony, even for the Oscar, is a very long ceremony. That's a long time to keep people's attention. I know the ratings were down like roughly 12% from last year, but they still had like 30 million Americans, just Americans, watching it. So the ratings are still pretty good. It's like the highest rated show besides like maybe the Super Bowl. That's pretty exceptional. Despite the fact that the ratings are still a little in decline each year, that's because probably people are cutting more cable. People don't like always when you intermix politics into the ceremony, which is another factor. But this year, I think they did a pretty good job of not doing that. I mean, there's a couple political jokes about Mike Pence and stuff, but generally speaking, it's not a huge deal. I was fine with that. It's just funny. I mean, it's funny for the most part. Christopher said, Will, I'm here. Dude, what's up, Chris? I'm glad you're here. I know you were here for the Oscars ceremony, so I'm glad you showed up for this one too. We're basically just recapping. I went through everything, so this will be on the channel if you want to rewatch, or if you want to scroll back. I think you can do that as well. But generally, yeah, I found the performance to be good, and I found the show to be good. And Cracked Up TV said, I found the Oscars this year to be very boring. Interesting. I actually found them to be pretty good this year. I like kind of how they do the stuff where they went to the theater like across the street, and they bring like candy or whatever, it was pizza or whatever, and they surprise people. That's always kind of a cool thing to do. And I felt like it was a good ceremony overall. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was fun hanging out with you guys. That was part of the fun. Finding certain streams was also part of the fun, which I won't go into, but that was definitely interesting. ABC definitely needs to have some sort of system where they're streaming it online or something, because there's so many people that don't have cable that want to watch the Oscars, and they're just like stuck and can't. So they need to figure out something about streaming, because it's really like a downside to it right now. And I'm sure they don't want to do it because there's so much money in the network television, broadcasting it on ABC and the commercials. There's so much money to be made there. But why not pay, or have someone be able to pay to have it streamed online, like Amazon or Facebook or something, or Twitter. Have it streamed online that people could even pay like a pay-per-view price, like pay $10 to watch it, right? Or $10 or $12 to watch it. And I'd probably pay it, honestly. I'd probably just pay it just to watch it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. They need to do something about streaming. That's something that needs to be improved, I think. They need to kind of update their ceremony to be more inclusive in terms of people that don't have cable. And that I get why they're not, because the money involved in the advertisements for airing it on ABC on a network like that with a lot of eyeballs, I get why they don't. But hey, you're alienating a lot of people, and a lot of people resort to illegal streaming. That's what happens. So I mean, hey, that's what's going to happen if you're not going to put it online. Someone else is going to put it online and they're going to watch it. So that's what happens. Just the world we live in. So Chris said I had to watch the Oscar legally. Dude, a lot of people did. That's just, I mean, that's a position they put a lot of us in. I mean, because, you know, like I said, cable's expensive, dude. A lot of people are cutting cable. I mean, even if you're outside the U.S. like you are, Chris, a lot of people are cutting cable. It's just an expense is not necessarily important right now because a lot of there's so much content on Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime. There's just so much content out there that's put online now that cable is kind of like not really adapting to the market the market change is taking place right now. And cable prices are like going up and going up. And if you're dealing with Comcast and stuff, they can be a real pain in the ass. Let me just say that. I mean, they'll raise your prices without telling you. It can just be a real pain. So I think a lot of people are like, screw it, I'm done with cable, right? And that's what I did. I haven't had cable for like a year plus now, and I've been fine with it. So that's kind of where I'm at. So Cracker TV said, if this is off topic, but if you could make any movie ever from the past, what would it be? So if like, you mean like remake a movie? Remake a movie. That's a good question. Sorry. I was actually having a conversation with some friends today, actually, and we were talking about Age of Ultron. I don't know if you're a huge Marvel fan or not. I don't think Age of Ultron's bad. I actually rather enjoy Age of Ultron, but I think the potential was there to make it a lot better. I would go back in time, have Joss Whedon either direct it and not have influence come in, or have a new director who was more willing to not make Ultron silly and make it more menacing. I think Age of Ultron was a big missed opportunity. I think people realize that. Another film that's not Marvel related. Well, the most disappointing movie of the year for me for 2017 was probably Blade Runner, which is funny because everyone loves Blade Runner, similar to how they love Shape of Water. And I promise I'm not being contrarian. Not being contrarian for the sake of contrarian. But I love Denis Villeneuve. He's my favorite director, I think, probably right now, him and Nolan. And I thought I was really hyped for Blade Runner, even though I did watch the first Blade Runner and I didn't love it either, to be honest. A lot of people think it's a masterpiece, but I didn't quite love it either. And I would probably remake the Blade Runner to make it just different than what it was. I felt there was very little emotion to it for me personally, and it was something that I would definitely not necessarily. I think would maybe be remade. It's funny because I love Denis Villeneuve and I love his movies, but that movie was not one that I enjoyed very much. But another movie from the past. Let me try to go back a little bit further. Let me just think about disappointing films, or even like a film that would be cool to remake. Honestly, I'm wondering if one day we might get a remake of Lord of the Rings, which is crazy because Lord of the Rings is one of the best trilogies ever, maybe the best, arguably. And I'm wondering if maybe in another 10 years we might get a reboot. It'd be crazy. That would be really cool. It wouldn't be Peter Jackson led, obviously, but obviously a lot of people would have the mindset of the originals are so perfect, leave them alone. But it's probably going to happen at some point. I know they're making a Lord of the Rings TV show, but that would be an interesting reboot to have. So Chris said, I don't know. There's probably other movies I could think of, Cracked Up TV, but I'll think about it. So Chris said, Christopher Nolan was so salty that he didn't win Best Actor. Was he? I didn't see that he was salty. Was he though? That's funny. I think he was probably the second choice. But honestly, Guillermo del Toro, like I said, was the clear favorite. He was the clear favorite because the Academy loved Shape of Water. He helmed The Shape of Water. It made sense, right? He won all the other awards for Best Director in pretty much every other award show. And Nolan, while he directed a pretty intense film in terms of all the different pieces, they obviously didn't quite love Dunkirk as much as they did Shape of Water, right? Dunkirk was acknowledged for how technically, proficient and masterful it was. But as a film, I mean, I'm sure the Academy loved it, but they loved Shape of Water a little bit more. And they just felt that what he did was a little bit more impressive. I would have picked Nolan. Nolan was my pick in my award show. I would pick Nolan. Because I felt like what he put off with all the extras, the sheer scope of the film, the sheer undertaking that the film was, sort of how I felt about La La Land and how technically, because Shape of Water was obviously technically proficient too, but La La Land was just so intensive and there was so much going on, and it was so fantastical and dreamlike that I felt La La Land and Damien Chazelle just deserved Best Director because of the undertaking of it. That's how I feel about Nolan. The undertaking of Dunkirk was why I felt he deserved it, because there's so much going into it, and ended up making a great film, an exceptional film that really immerses you without really connecting you to the characters necessarily. And Generally speaking, I think Nolan probably deserved it, but I understand he might be salty, but he's going to win at some point. This is his first nomination, right? So, I mean, first nomination is Best Director. So, he's bound to win eventually. So his time will come. His time will come. Every movie he makes is pretty great. So it's funny though, because Interstellar, I love Interstellar. I think Interstellar is super underrated. It got like a 75 or something, 70 something percent. And a lot of people, the critics didn't really love Interstellar. They thought it was all right, kind of mediocre, kind of average. I love Interstellar. I think it's great. A lot of people think it's great. So I'm surprised no one didn't get nominated for that one, but that's because the Academy and the critics didn't necessarily love it. But a lot of people I talked to have loved it. I've heard people say it's their favorite film. I loved Interstellar. So Chris said, Christopher Nolan is like a god to the filmmaking world, but somehow in some way the Oscar just never fans it. Yeah, you know what I think it is? It's funny because you know how the Academy, like, at least in recent years, like, does not nominate, like, big box office films. Like, if you look at all the Best Picture nominees, they're not big, like, money makers, right? They're all, like, indie films. They're not big money makers that, like, dominate the box office. But Christopher Nolan makes films that dominate the box office and make a lot of money. And I wonder if the Academy kind of, like, scoffs at that. You know what I mean? They kind of scoff at his films because his films are like big box office successes. They're kind of mass market, mainstream appeal. And he's kind of like the one director that they give acknowledgement to, that his films are great in that kind of market. But that's why I think he never wins, because I think his films are not considered like indie and artistic and like, artistic and weird enough, right? They're too box office, they're too big budget, and the Academy doesn't really want to give that kind of film the recognition it quite deserves. Like, I mean, Dark Knight didn't win anything. Dark Knight didn't win Best Picture. It wasn't even nominated, I don't think. I mean, Heath Ledger won, well-deserved, but I don't even think Nolan got nominated for Dark Knight, right? I mean, if you're not nominated for Dark Knight, then I don't know what to say. I mean, if you're not nominated for Inception, I don't know what to say. I mean, like, I just think it's too big box office. It's too big moneymakers. Those are not the kind of films that the Academy generally gravitates to nowadays. It's just not. They don't gravitate to big money-making films. They just don't. Get Out was kind of exceptional. Get Out made a pretty good amount of money, but that's pretty rare. It's pretty rare. But yeah, that's, I think, in part why Nolan is not given the recognition he deserves from the Academy, because he makes a kind of film that they are kind of, turn their blind eye to, because that's just not their thing anymore. So that's fine, but that's just how it is. So we'll kind of see how it goes, but I don't know. I think Nolan will get his eventually, but I'm not holding my breath for any time soon. It really just depends what he comes up with next. But like I said, his films make a lot of money, and that's why studios love him. But hey, the Academy's not into it. I mean, they're into it enough to nominate him this year and give him some technical stuff, but they're not in it enough to really give him Best Picture or to give him Best Director. So you said personally, Chris said, I think that Darren Aronofsky's Mother should have been nominated for a few Oscars. Yeah, maybe so. I thought the cinematography in Mother was actually really good, because it was very unsettling, and that's what I liked about it. It was very immersive in that way, because it was just a lot of tight shots, a lot of grainy and dark shots. The lighting was very particular and very odd and off, and it just felt very unsettling. And the framing of the shots just felt really weird and off. And that was very intentional, obviously. And I feel like he did a good job, because it is a film with a message, and it is kind of creative, and it is kind of complex in a way. So I do agree with you there. But generally speaking, maybe for a few Oscars, like technically, I think the sound was really good in it. I love the sound with the creaking floorboards and those kind of the creaking floorboards, and just the movement through the houses and the sounds the other characters and the people who came in the house would make. That was really good. It was a very immersive film in that way. But yeah, I agree. Thinking about Mother, it's kind of weird. It Comes at Night got pretty snubbed. It Comes at Night got snubbed, right? It didn't get any nominations. Pretty crazy. It Comes at Night, I thought maybe get a sound one or maybe a cinematography one or something, but no, it didn't. So that's interesting as well. Maybe it's just not the Academy's kind of movie. I mean, Get Out got nominated. It's a horror film, so horror thriller. So who knows? But generally, it's interesting because I don't think Daniel Kaluuya was pretty good in Get Out. I liked him a lot. I think he's a great actor. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. But I think if you're really going to start diving into horror thriller categories, which the Academy almost never does, right? They almost never nominate horror thriller actors for Best Actor, Best Leading Actor, Best Supporting Actor. If you're going to nominate Daniel Kaluuya, why are you bypassing James McAvoy, right? Because James McAvoy's performance in Split is excellent. it was. I mean, if Daniel Kaluuya was deserving of a nomination for Get Out, then James McAvoy is equally deserving, if not more so, of a nomination for Split. Right? They're both leading actors. They're both excellent in their films. They both portray. James McAvoy had more layers to his character. Obviously, he had 23 layers to his character, and he had a lot more to do. Right? And not to say Daniel Kaluuya wasn't good. Daniel Kaluuya was really good at Get Out, but I think the level of acting proficiency that was required of James McAvoy to pull off that role is just higher, right? It's just higher. It just is. So like I felt that James McAvoy was certainly snubbed, and I was just upset because if you're gonna like, cause Get Out is a horror thriller, right? It's a horror thriller. So like the Academy never nominates those kind of things for these kind of awards for like individual accolades, right? And the fact that they did, but they didn't nominate James McAvoy just seems weird to me. I don't know. I didn't quite get that one. I don't mind Daniel Kaluuya necessarily getting nominated. I would not have nominated him, but I think James McAvoy was more deserving. Chris said Get Out only won because it had racial discrimination. Maybe, I don't know. I don't claim to know the Academy's mindset with this kind of thing. It did have a message, a social message about racism and discrimination and those kind of things, and about different types of racism. So I think that's maybe why the Academy was more drawn to it. But generally, I was pretty shocked with all the Academy nominations it got, the Oscar nominations it got, because it's just not that type of film that gets nominations. Like horror thrillers don't get nominations, right? They just don't. Not in recent years. So, and I was pretty shocked that it got the love it did. But hey, it is what it is. I enjoyed it though. I enjoyed Get Out. I gave it a 9. I thought it was a very good film, very well done film. But it's not an Oscar film to me. Based on what we know about the Oscars and the history of the Oscars and what kind of films they nominate, the Get Out does not fit that mold to me, despite its social message. Not to say it's not a good film. It's a very good film. But just for the Academy standards, it doesn't quite fit to me. Chris said, yes, James was so good. Yeah, he was. He was great. And I didn't quite get why he got bypassed here, but I knew he would get bypassed. But I thought Daniel Kaluuya would get bypassed too. And I was honestly pretty shocked to see his nomination. Like I said, I get why he got nominated, because he was very good in his film. But I was a little surprised by it because I just don't think it's the type of film that generally gets those type of nominations. Yeah, you're right. The racial issues, the message, the importance of the social message is probably what elevated the film into the Academy nominations. But generally, yeah, I mean, honestly, it's hard to say. I like kind of judging the film as a film and not trying to, leverage it because it has a strong message to it. The strong message is important, sure, but it's in a genre that's just not getting acknowledged by the Academy ever. So it just feels weird to throw this one in there. That's just my opinion. I mean, Get Out is a better movie than Split for sure. Get Out is definitely a better movie overall, but I thought James McAvoy probably had a better performance. Dennis said you seem excited. I'm fairly excited, dude. I'm just excited. I'm excited to be alive, Dennis. That's what it is. I'm excited to be hanging out with you guys. That's really what it is. But yeah, I'm just excited. Honestly, I'm pretty tired. I'm gonna watch when I'm done with this live stream soon in a couple minutes. We're 53 minutes in. When I'm done with this live stream, I'm gonna finish watching Godfather 2 because, well, if I can tonight, because there's so much left to watch of it. But I really am into Godfather 2 right now, so I gotta finish it. But I'll take like a couple more thoughts or questions for you guys before I sign off. We're 54 minutes in, so a couple more minutes, and then we can sign off here. But if you missed this live stream or you caught it late, it'll be on the channel, or you can scroll back and get into all the nitty gritty of the whole presentation, the whole scoop. Basically, I just went over the Oscars, recapped it, provided my thoughts on what I think should have won and whether I had a problem with some of the winners. Obviously, I had a problem with Shape of Water, but I get it why I won. But hey, Allison Williams was very good in Get Out. She was very good. I don't think I would have nominated her because, again, I don't think that Get Out is the type of film that really gets nominated by the Academy. I just don't think it does. But not to say it's not a good film. I would be more inclined to include those type of films in general, just horror thrillers that don't get the nomination, don't get the acclaim they deserve. There's not a lot of great ones, to be fair, nowadays, but some of them are pretty exceptional. Cracked Up TV said, this is off topic, but what songs can you play on the piano? I can actually play a bunch of songs on the piano. I used to play at restaurants a bunch. I played, I haven't lately. I played a set of probably like 45 songs at a time. I played mostly pop songs, but I do play some classic songs. I haven't played in a while. I played Moonlight Sonata and Clair de Lune. Mostly a lot of recent stuff, that like popular stuff, because that's kind of what I am into the most. Like Walk the Moon, Taylor Swift, Adele, 1975. I love the 1975. That kind of stuff. I'm more poppy stuff. But there's other stuff as well. The Script, Celine Dion for the Titanic song. That kind of stuff. So Jason T said James probably didn't nominated because he was too weird for the Academy. Says Daniel had the more black performance. Yeah, I think you're probably right, James. I think it was probably a little weird. Maybe they felt that they would invoke controversy by because people criticized James McAvoy's performance because they said it was a sort of a demonizing, inaccurate portrayal of mental illness and split personality disorder. So that's maybe why they kind of gravitated away from it. But I don't know exactly. It's hard to say. It's hard to speculate. Yeah, but those are songs I can play. Chris said Godfather 2. Yes. I'll fall asleep watching it, but because I'm tired, not because it's not entertaining, because I'm very entertained by it. It's very long, though, like I said. It's like both movies are 3 hours plus long. So I'm really into the second one, though. I like the first one a lot, but I like the second one a little bit more so far. It's 10 a.m. here in Singapore. Wow. Okay, it's 10 a.m. there. It's 9:11 p.m. here. So I'm on the East Coast. So it's not super late, but I usually go to bed around probably like midnight or so. But I get tired around like 10 p.m. I don't really get much productive done because I'm so tired. That's when I just watch The Godfather or something. But yeah. So yeah, if you guys have any like one or two final questions, we got like 2 minutes. Then I'll kind of wrap things up. Sorry, I'm getting sick. Obviously, I feel a little under the weather to begin with, so hopefully I can make it through this. Oh, Creditor TV, so it's 8:11 a.m. where I am. You have to tell me where you are. That's a pretty big time jump from where I'm at. So I don't know. But yeah, time differences. I know a lot of you guys, a lot of the more active people on this channel, a lot of you guys are not US based, which is interesting. I love that because I love the fact that we're able to connect and interact with each other across the internet where obviously we wouldn't be able to. Like obviously if we didn't have YouTube to do this kind of stuff, we'd be screwed, right? We would never have met. We'd never be able to discuss movies and interact together. And I really enjoy that. Actually, Chris and I follow each other on Instagram. I actually see Chris's posts on there a lot. I think you were posting stories about the Oscars and stuff. I was watching a bunch of them. They were pretty cool. But yeah, if you guys follow me on Instagram or those sites, usually if you like tell me who you are or something, I'll follow you back. If I don't know who you are, I don't follow you back because I don't know who you are. But if I know who you are, I will follow you back. Dennis asked me, do you know where I'm from? You told me before. I'm pretty sure it's somewhere in Europe, but I forget exactly. It's like, honestly, you have to remind me. I can't remember. You told me though. It's in Europe though. It's definitely in Europe. But I can't remember. Europe's a big place, obviously, but it's definitely in there. That's kind of a wide area, but I can't remember, honestly. But I'm from the U.S. You guys know that. You can pretty much tell. I'm an ignorant American. That's what I am. But yeah, that's where I come from. But yeah, so I think that pretty much wraps it up. I know some of you guys are coming in late to this, but this will be up on the channel. So if you want to hear my reactions to the other Oscars and other stuff, feel free to watch this. I think it usually takes maybe like an hour to process because usually this is like an hour-long video, so YouTube has to process it before they put it up. So like, we got to make sure you're not putting crazy stuff in your video. But that's what it is. Okay, so he's a Nord. Okay, got it. You're a Nord. Got it. You're a Nord. Got it. Okay, I'm an American. So that makes sense. But all right, guys, I appreciate you watching. Thanks for hanging out. And I should be live streaming Sunday morning as well. If you guys have any other topics you'd like to see me discuss, just comment them on whatever video you like. I put out a review earlier today about Game Night. I can discuss Game Night more on Sunday. But as of now, I'll say it's a movie you should definitely go see. It's not an amazing film, but it's a funny film and it's a fun film. I think it's good if you want to go to the movies and have a good time. If that's what you're looking for, then Game Night's definitely up your alley. I'd be surprised if you didn't like it. But until next time, I'll see you guys. I'll see you on Sunday. I'll put out another review in the meantime. I'm not sure what I'll see Thursday night. Maybe Wrinkle in Time. I'm not too excited for that one, honestly. I think it looks kind of bad. But we'll see how it goes. But anyway, I'll see you guys in